I'm not saying to be a great leader, your business needs to be starving. I'm just saying that the importance of your own personal achievement needs to be equal to the importance of everyone else's achievement. We were all just harmoniously and fortunately moving toward the same thing, survival. And that's when the team was gelled. Once we had passed that stage and I started setting these goals for us, I was setting them for me.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a fun one. Our returning guest is the author of a new book. It is called All In: How Great Leaders Build Unstoppable Teams. Mike Michalowicz, welcome back to the podcast.
Michael, it's awesome to be back with you. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. You've been on quite a few times.
I know.
We could just do you every week. We've got books. We got things going on. You are a busy person.
Yeah, and you too, my friend. Thanks for doing this.
It's our pleasure. We love having you back. I know our listener loves listening to you, so this is perfect for them. And you've got this new book, Mike. Why don't we start off there with the new book? How did this come up? What was the idea? Tell us about it.
Yeah, the truthful reason why I write books, and this is only actually on reflection. I thought, I want to serve and care for people, and it's all true. It's all true. But I also am writing for myself and didn't really realize it. It's stuff I need to learn, and by researching and teaching, it forces you to become the best student. So I realized I'm an okay leader. I'm a marginal leader, and I aspire to be great, but I'm not. And this has helped me increase my competence. I have flashes or moments of greatness, but that's not my level yet, and I hope to get there. I think there's been a big shift, especially since COVID. What was a desire in the past is now a demand in the current. I wanted to work from home. I expect to work from home. I wanted flexibility. I now require that. Leadership, as a result, must change. We must embrace this, and great leaders are doing that and building great teams. I think the opportunity is in front of us, and I wrote the book to be of service to that.
It is. The world has changed dramatically, and with COVID, with the technology that's available, it's a need, a great need. And I'm curious, though. You've said that you want to be a better leader. What about yourself and your experience being on teams in the past or working with other leaders? What were your experiences? Have you been in a bad situation throughout your career?
Yeah.
Leading up
it's actually funny. One of the stories I share in the book was this epiphany that I had only in retrospect. It actually didn't even happen in the moment, but it's a defining moment on my understanding of leadership. So I had a business. We were doing computer crime investigation, computer forensics. And I was sitting in my office after year two, and I'm running the numbers like, oh my God, we can do $10 million in revenue this year, which for me, that up to that point, had been the biggest company I've ever grown by a long shot. So I'm like, this is it. And in the process, our number one competitor back then was Kroll. I'm like, they're inferior. We can take them down. They're huge, but they don't do what we do. So I'm like, take down a competitor and be an authority in this space. So I had 30 colleagues at the time. I call everyone into our huddle space. It was a big open room we had, this big whiteboard. And I wrote $10 million in bubble letters and numbers behind me. And I put this big sticky note over it. This grand presentation. I literally had Eye of the Tiger music playing in the background just to get people jacked. And I'm like, this is the year we take down Kroll and we achieve $10 million in revenue. And my colleagues are like, okay, it was basically silence. And I'm like, $10 million. That's our vision. That's the corporate vision. And people just shuffled back out. My assistant, her name was Patty at the time, and she came up to me and she goes, Mike, if we achieve $10 million in revenue, you get a bigger house, you get a new car. What about our visions? What do we want for ourselves? And it didn't hit me then, but I was stunned. And as I thought about it, like, she is right. Most leaders set a corporate vision. Great leaders set a collective vision. What does everyone want to achieve? And how do I organize our team so we have self-accomplishment, that we have self-achievement, and in the process, the corporate achievement, which really is the goal of the owner or the leader for themselves. As that's my goal. That wasn't their goal. And so my commitment finally wasn't right away, but was learn and understand the importance of everyone's independent vision. And then create the script that we're all moving toward our independent visions. And now we're locked arms in moving the business forward because we're all getting out of it to some degree what we want, what we see for ourselves.
Yeah, remarkable and so interesting. And I having you say that, I've had leaders or bosses that in the past, yeah, it's like, hey, we're gonna, who's excited about making my life great?
That's right. Here's the flag in the sand. We're marching toward this, and when we achieve it, I will be recognized and wealthy.
I will be on my yacht, and it's going to be awesome. You guys, I'll invite you. You can come and visit.
Yeah, you can visit.
You can watch from the shore and give me a send-off.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, and what's funny is that was what we've been told, is set a clear stake of where you want to go, because we all need to be marching towards something, and the logic makes sense. But we got to think about the human behavior. Selfishly, I don't care about anyone else as much as myself. I may say it. I mean, I feel it. My family is more important than self. But even saying that means the way I feel about my family is most important, which again is self-reflective. It's my feeling about my family which is most important. So we're all selfish beings in that regard. And so we got to realize this, that everyone has their own selfish goals and objectives. We got to care for that. Mm-hmm. And reciprocity kicks in too. The more I care for my teams genuinely and authentically and elevating them, the selfish return is reciprocity. They want to support what I have envisioned for myself.
That's right. I think that being considerate is like a light switch you have to turn on every now and then because as human beings, we're going about our business, trying to make our life work, but being considerate of others, trying to make their life work. It's like, hey, wow, like, it's not just all about me. And sometimes that, as a leader, we've type A personalities, lots of risk, beating the trail down. It's easy, I think, for leaders to forget about the considerate part of being that leader. And so this is a great point and a great story for everyone, I'm sure, to think about that the next time they're talking about the vision and where they're going. It's like, yeah, like, does this even resonate with anyone else on the team? We'll get back to the interview right after this word from our sponsor. I find it shocking that in this day and age, ACH bank transfers sometimes only work during bank hours, and people are still sending checks that often get delayed in the mail. Isn't it time to ditch these slow, costly, out-of-date payment options and start using the award-winning cash flow management platform, Forwardly? With Forwardly, you can send free instant payments while keeping funds in your bank longer, receive instant payments for 80% less than credit card fees, and enjoy same-day ACH absolutely free. Forwardly syncs with QuickBooks Online and Xero for effortless reconciliation and offers automatic payments and approval workflows, saving you time and giving you peace of mind. The best part is that you can leap into the future of business payments with Forwardly and earn yourself a free iPhone 15 Pro this summer. Sign up at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com/Forwardly to create your account today. And you can also click on that link in the show notes. Thank you for hearing from our sponsor. Now let's get back to the interview. I am curious about that because you had this vision, you got that feedback from Patty. What happened? Did you pivot? Did you change? Did nobody get on board? What happened to you crushing it with 10 million?
Yeah, didn't happen. We actually ended up selling the company. And I'm not saying that was the only moment that triggered it, but I think it was indicative of my behavior. I thought what I wanted is what we wanted and never really appreciated that. Now, there was a Fortune 500 that came in and bought the business. And that's when I'm like, oh, that was kind of the way. I kind of used a form of behavioral confirmation logic saying, well, that's actually what I wanted. That was the 10 million was the exit. And so it kind of backfilled that fulfillment, which is another ego-based thing. But my team, it was interesting. I interviewed one of my colleagues. His nickname was Shaq. And I interviewed Shaq maybe 15 years later and said, what do you think about that company? And he goes, there was a moment that I felt was my family. I would sacrifice anything for that business because we were all just trying to figure out what was going on. And he goes, and it admittedly might get started to fade. And when we sold the business, I was kind of questioning if I should be here anyway. What was interesting also in reflection of that, and I so appreciate his integrity, was there was a stage that I and everyone on the team, we were all just trying to figure it out. We were all equals. And while we had different titles and different responsibilities, we all had to figure out survival. It's interesting the unification that comes about when you're all trying to feed yourself. But the second I started to see that, I could elevate to a new level status, I didn't really realize I was trying to put myself on their shoulders and have them lift me up. And it does change the dynamic internally. So that was an important point of reflection. I'm not saying to be a great leader, your business needs to be starving. I'm just saying that the importance of your own personal achievement needs to be equal to the importance of everyone else's achievement. We were all just harmoniously and fortunately moving toward the same thing, survival. And that's when the team was gelled. Once we had passed that stage and I started setting these goals for us, I was saying them for me. So no, it didn't play out the way I wanted, but there's been great realizations in retrospect.
That's right. And if you're the only one that's getting your life out of it and your, the trappings, it kind of gets, that's a whole nother dynamic. It kind of gets a little old for the people that are lifting you up.
Yeah.
And seeing you get all, and you can see that. And I think our listener, many of them would be in a position to have this happen in their businesses because as they grow and money comes in, it changes things and it can change. It's like, wow, all of a sudden I have the ability to buy the fancy car or go on the fancy vacation. Are my team getting those rewards or am I the only one getting it? I mean, you could see that'd be very easy for that to happen. So not only the vision isn't resonating for people, it's all about you, but now you actually start to create the results and now you're the only one. And it's like that changes things dramatically in the culture.
Yeah. It's a little empty. Here's the most interesting thing though. I then thought, if I get the trappings, we all want the trappings. And that's not true either. That was the other surprise. So in subsequent businesses, we've had substantial success, however you want to define it, but the trappings success components. And it's like, clearly it needs to be shared equally. And no, that's not the case. Here's what I have learned to do, and I'm not perfect at, but is to ask each one of my colleagues, what's important for you in your life? What are you looking to achieve? And really monitor and understand that feedback, because it's not the same necessarily of what I want. So one person here at our office right now has overcome cancer, but she wants to be on her 6th year of being cancer-free. She's like, the number one thing in my life is health. She shared something profound with me. She goes, you want a lot of things until the day you're sick, and then you want one thing. I was like, whoa, that's a wake-up call. Thank you, Amy. And that's her goal. There's another person who has elderly parents. Like, I just want time with my family. Another person's looking to buy a house because their house gets flooded. They're in a flood zone. Someone wants to learn Spanish. I have to be very careful of not putting a degree of importance on other people's visions. Learning Spanish is equally important as overcoming cancer, is equally important of achieving XYZ in my business. They're all equals. It's just what we see and envision for ourselves. So first of all, they're all on equal footing. And then my job is to help satisfy that, not by fulfilling it. This is not Make-A-Wish Foundation. And it's actually unfulfilling. A friend of mine was telling me, Michael, it was funny. He goes, imagine the next Super Bowl, the two teams come together, which will probably be Kansas City again, and somebody else, and they come together, and the refs say, you know what? We're not going to play the game because there's a high likelihood of injury. It's too violent. What we're going to do is we're going to flip a coin. Whoever gets the coin flip, we're just going to call the winner. Is that cool? Like, that would be the biggest letdown ever. It's not who gets the winning trophy. It's who earned the winning trophy that's of interest. So in our lives, when we're granted something, as nice as it can feel to hold that trophy, it's actually unfulfilled. There's little value in it. So my goal my job is to block and tackle. My goal is to keep that dream in front of them. I can't get you that new house, or even if I could, I'm not going to get you the new house, but I know it's important to you. So we're going to talk about it regularly. If I know someone that can help facilitate that, a realtor, I'll make introductions and so forth. But I want you to keep working toward that. I'll adjust schedules if that's what's necessary, but I want you to get there and earn it. And the satisfaction of owning it, of achieving it, is what brings about the true fulfillment. And that's the job of a leader.
That's right, and it's all fleeting as well. Any kind of achievement is very, very short-lived. As you grab the trophy, it's great for a moment, and then it's like, what's next? And I think
every time
comes back to the vision, right? It's constantly evolving. I think the theme I'm hearing from you is big-time communication, right? What are they seeing? What are we seeing? And making sure that the communication, understanding between people. And that's the leader's role, is to make sure that's happening and happening often.
Absolutely. That last word, happening often. So the big time communication, I found, manifests in volume or frequency, really, of communication. Instead of having an annual meeting that we sit down for a few hours or a day or whatever it is to sort it out, we have a weekly check-in. And it can be 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but it's like, hey, here's things we're talking about in your personal vision. How are you doing on that? How's the job going, by the way? Is it supporting you in your life? And so it's interesting. Over time, I've noticed that the conversation around the job role itself is maybe 20 to 40% of the conversation. Majority is around just life itself. But that builds a form of connection and a relationship between their job and what they're trying to achieve outside the job. What's interesting is I can't think of one instance here where we had to have a sit down after 6 months and we got to fix issues because you're not fulfilling your job responsibilities the way you expected. That's what I used to do. Now with this frequent communication, there's these little micro adjustments both ways. I'm getting feedback. Oh, this way we're operating our business is not appropriate. Let's change it. We actually just had a meeting where I was like, oh my God, that's such a good idea. And conversely, micro adjustments in reverse saying, hey, you're not producing something I expected. What can we fix here? These little micro adjustments prevent that big confrontational communication, which is a shame because you have 6 months of lost effort. And when it's a big confrontation, a big adjustment, it's very hard to fix. You have 30 days to resolve this. Now it's like we're constantly resolving and improving and fixing. It's much more morphic.
Really interesting. It's just that little step of just the frequency in itself.
Yeah.
Fixes a lot of things. An experience recently with a team, and no communication, lack of transparency, build up throughout the season, and then towards the end, the eruption, right? And now we're going to have meetings and discussions, and it's all for what? To do better next time. It really is. Whereas just the simple fix, meeting more often, open channel of communication, the steam can't grow, right? And it's like you've created a pathway. If someone doesn't want to communicate or somehow withheld from communicating or whatever the case may be, you still have the channel open, right? You can never go back and say, well, we didn't have an opportunity. The opportunity was always there. And that at a very minimum, I think, as you're saying, is leads to just never that blowout of, hey, we need to sit down and have this big conversation.
I agree. We have outside my office here, Michael, there's a wall here. You can't see it, but it's maybe 12 or 13 feet high. And on the other side of it, there is this tree, actually kind of similar to the one I have behind me. It's barren, but it's just in wallpaper. And we call it the vision tree. And what it is as anyone achieves a individual vision they had for themselves, learned a new language, start practicing guitar, no matter what it is, every month on a Monday, the first Monday of the month, we sit down and say, let's talk about, as a group now, individual visions that were accomplished, and you fill it out. Spent 2 days, visiting my parents in Oklahoma. Congratulations. We paste it on the wall as a leaf on this barren tree. Well, just in a few years, this tree has bloomed with so many individual accomplishments. And it's like this point of pride. People walk in, they kind of look at the tree. Sometimes they rehash things they've achieved in their vision. So it's bloomed so much. I met with Amy. She's our office admin. And I said, hey, Amy, I think it's time to take this down. It's too many leaves. And she goes, are you effing kidding me, Mike? She goes, no one's touching that tree. She goes, we'll start planting flowers. We'll buy little paper flowers and maybe put paper birds around. And when you put your accomplishment on those, but this isn't going anywhere. And I was like, oh my God, of course that's it. The visions we have are so important, but then it's also the recognition. It's kind of that vacation I went on last year that I still love to rehash with my family. Remember when? Well, that vision tree is a remember when. And what a great thing that my colleagues and myself, we walk in and I say, remember when, and I'm thinking of that feeling when I'm here at the office of something I accomplished.
So true. I mean, we talked about fleeting, right? Well, when you have the reminder coming up, you get extra juice out of the fruits on that tree because it's there, it's in your face, it's you're reminded, you're coming every day, your team's coming in, you're seeing the visions of past, and you're thinking about creating something new. And such an interesting take, like example of the vacation. How valuable is the vacation? Why'd you go on the vacation? For the memories, for the experience, right?
Right.
If you forget about it, burn up and bury the photos, like, well, you're losing out.
Yeah, there's all this, look what we've done. It actually triggers another thought in All In, the new book. I wrote down these different elements of what great leaders do to inspire their team. And one component is a sense of safety. Now, there's physical safety, and that is a concern for all offices. If someone doesn't feel physically safe in a manufacturing environment, I can get harmed. Even in a professional environment, there's situations where people don't feel safe. People won't perform at their highest level. You can't. But there was another one that this triggered. It's relational safety. Do I feel I fit in, and am I accepted as I am here? Well, what I noticed, Michael, is most organizations, when someone comes on board, it's a celebration only when they leave. So the day they come on board, it's like, do this paperwork and sit in your corner and shut up. Or virtually, it's like, well, get this stuff done and check in with your boss for 10 minutes. But the day you leave, meaning 15 years later, 5 years later, there's a retirement celebration or the moving on celebration. And that's when the party happens, which makes no sense. We need to celebrate their introduction. So day one here at our office, and I encourage so many leaders to do this, is have a big celebration, because now you're giving people a sense of safety. But there's one component that really amplifies this. It's very specific. I'll give you through an example. We had an employee join us, her name is Corday. During the interview process, we said, hey, there must be other people that you're talking with about working here, meaning loved ones or something. Are there other people involved in the consideration? She said, yeah, well, absolutely. My husband and I are talking about this. Is it appropriate? And so forth. So we learned a little bit about her husband, Brian. On her first day, when she came on board, there was this welcome basket, among other things, to celebrate her. And it's not tchotchkes, it's stuff specific to her. It's like best employee ever, Corday, his name, on her mug and so forth. But there was also a wrapped gift. And what it was a bottle of bourbon, because we learned that Brian, her husband, enjoyed a particular bourbon. So we bought that for him. When your employee goes home, or after they disconnect from their first virtual day on work, I can guarantee it's one question they'll be asked. How was your first day? So Brian, of course, said to Corday, how was your first day? She's like, it was surprisingly great. They were so much fun. I got these gifts, and I didn't even have to do paperwork. We're going to push that off till later. It was just about learning about the team and them learning about me. And then she goes, Brian, by the way, you got a gift. And he's like, I got a gift? He's like, yeah. And there it was a letter. It said, hey, Brian, we know no decision for employment with us is made alone. Thank you for considering this with Corday. We're so excited to have her and so excited for your support. We hope you enjoy your favorite bourbon. Now, Brian was blown away because the spouse, the significant other, the family member never gets recognized in this process. The next morning, Brian is shaking Corday at 4 a.m. saying, wake up, you work for the best company ever. Go there, kick ass. We have to win over that cheerleader at home and bring the safe environment, not just here at the office, but a sense of inclusion everywhere. And that's how you do it.
What a great story. What a great story. It's I'd love to hear more of those core principles, because it definitely resonates. And I love that. Do I feel safe in this? Was it relationship or
relationship.
Yeah, relationship safety. To bring it back to the team, right? Do people speak up If they don't, like, why? And in this situation,
Yeah.
many people are afraid. What if I speak up? How will that impact the relationship that everyone has with my child on this team? It's very interesting to see this sort of unfold this past year. It's right that people did not feel safe. So therefore, the communication's is a breakdown. And certainly with, if you think of a team, there's children and there's families, right? If all the family feel bought in, just like this fellow with his bourbon, it's like he is a cheerleader now for her going into work. He's going to pay more attention. He's going to be more understanding. He's going to be supportive of what's happening. So it creates a whole different momentum of energy.
That's right. That's right. And I do want to share
one
more
let's do
tip.
it.
So it's around ownership. And what I found is we ask ourselves, I wish my employees could act like owners. How do I do that? You do it through what's called psychological ownership. When people have the ability to personalize what they're doing, put their own feel to it, when they have control over it, meaning instead of telling people what to do, ask them, how do you think we can get there? And they have intimate knowledge. The more they know about it, the more they have a sense of ownership. Here's the thing. Look for your colleagues saying, this is my job or our company or our responsibility. Those are indicators of psychological ownership. But if you hear them saying this is the job or your company, you're not there yet and you need to elevate your leadership.
I absolutely love it. And Mike, I know you're short on time, busy making a big difference in the world here, massive difference. This book's great for our listener with their organization, becoming a better leader. I know all the books you write them in a way that they're really easy to understand and also take into the world and actually practice. I mean, we've had you on the podcast, your pumpkin plan. My brother-in-law used it to implement and grow a business like, 5x revenue. Incredible. This book will be great. But as well, listener, I want to remind you, great book to gift to your clients, right? What if all of your clients up their leadership by only 5%? What would happen to those businesses and all the people involved with them? So, Michael, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to encourage all of our listeners to buy the book, get it out into the hands of people that need it.
As always, Michael, thank you to you. I appreciate you tremendously.
Wonderful. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.